Hi Nikki.
Hi Martin, how are you?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm well, as you know, I've moved into a new place, so I'm sort of like getting my feet. Um, I'm grateful for the sun today because it's as you well know, it's been quite it's lovely when the sun's out, but when it's not out, it's really cold and
Yeah.
obviously May, we're expecting the temperature to have risen. So that's been a bit thing. I don't know about you, but I find it difficult when you go out, choosing what coat to wear and stuff like that.
Definitely.
But yeah, and I also, I sort of like appreciate that when the sun's out, it gives me a little added lift, something that I don't have to do myself that morning. Um, and I totally, I wouldn't say I'm affected by it, but the condition SAD is definitely something a lot of people I know suffer from. And January, February, especially, are difficult months. So I'm sort of, um, but I suppose we're going to talk today a bit about Mental Health Month. Um, and I suppose you as a mindset coach, you'll have your own sort of mental health. Maybe you have a discipline or something that you do to help keep you stable on a daily basis. I don't know if you wanted to elaborate more on that.
Yeah, sure. Um, so actually, I'm just going to go back and touch on what you said about the sad thing. I find January for me is a really dull, dark, depressing month. And I've really struggled with January in the past. And I saw something this year which made me kind of change my approach to it. I can't remember where I read it, probably on Instagram. Somebody made a comment about how animals, some animals hibernate during those winter months, and we're mammals. So technically, we could be in hibernation of sorts. And therefore, we're not expected to be feeling our best because it's dreary weather and very, it's very depressing. It can be very depressing. And also, Christmas has been and gone, and it's kind of like that, okay, what's next kind of thing. So I looked at it from that way. I thought, actually, do you know what? That's quite a good way to approach it. Maybe I'm not meant to feel happy and jolly every day because I'm supposed to be like a little bear in my cave, fast asleep until the spring. So I kind of this year I looked at it from that perspective. So I didn't push myself to do stuff, whereas normally I'd be trying to push myself to do work or to get things done. And I thought, no, I'm not going to do that this year. I'm going to take that time to rest. I'm going to listen to my body. If I want to sit and read my book, I'm going to go and sit and read my book. If I want to go and have a nap in the afternoon, I'm going to allow myself to do that. And it helped me get through the month. And I noticed this year, for the first time that I can remember, I actually felt okay about it being January. So that was my thing for getting through those dark, depressing winter months. Was just saying, okay, you know what? Maybe by nature I should be hibernating now. So I'm just going to allow myself to have that rest. And I don't think I did anything work-wise, like creating anything new or anything. I gave myself that time just to have that rest and reset. And yeah, I felt so much better for it. So that was my thing for January. But on a daily basis, there are like little routines that I do to help me through. So every morning when I wake up, the first thing I do is I meditate. And I've got different lengths of meditations that I use depending on how much time I have. So it can vary between 5 minutes to 20 minutes. So I'll do that first thing. I won't look at my phone, turn the alarm off on my phone, and that's all I'll do. I won't touch my phone. I'll just put meditation on and I will do that. For me, that helps me get set up for the day because we do have a tendency, first thing we do when the alarm goes off, pick up our phones. Okay, what's gone on overnight? What emails have come in? What messages have I got? And we start to reply and we start to see, oh, let me check my work email. Oh, I've got that. And it's automatically, you're kind of then gone into that negative mindset. So I try to avoid all of that, do my meditation. The next thing I do is when I have my shower, I do gratitude. So as soon as I'm in the shower, I start to go through all the list of the things I'm thankful for. Firstly, I'm thankful for another day. Thankful that I have my health, I have a roof over my head, food to eat, clothes to wear, all those kind of things that we probably take for granted, that we have every single day right there in front of us, but we don't necessarily perhaps realize how lucky we are to have those things because there's a lot of people in this world that don't. So I do that because gratitude also helps to switch your focus to positive mindset. But they're not saying that there are days when I wake up and I don't feel so great about life or a situation that's happened or whatever it might be. I understand that that's human. We're always going to have good days and bad days. That's just life. On those down days, I still do my meditation. In fact, I meditate more because for me, that's my go to meditation. That's my kind of reset. It allows me to pause because, especially on those days when we're feeling a bit low, we can get stuck in our thoughts and we can then get in those thought loops where we're just going over and over and over something, trying to perhaps solve an issue, solve a problem, whatever it might be. But the problem is that when we're stuck up here, we can't use logic to solve whatever it is that we're trying to deal with. So for me, meditation is just about quietening those thoughts. That's my go-to to kind of help me de-stress, to help me kind of get some kind of balance, to be grounded, to then kind of then have that perspective that I can then look at whatever it is that's bothering me that day and deal with it. So my next thing on those days after I've meditated is to then brain dump. So what I do with my brain dumping is I don't write it in a journal. Can if you want to. I personally found that unhelpful because I'd write about my bad day or whatever was bothering me. And then I would find a few months later I'd be flicking back and then reading about my bad day, which would then I'd then start reliving it. Or I'd be thinking, hold on a minute, that situation was bothering me 6 months ago. It's still bothering me now. What the hell's going on? So I found that really unhelpful doing it that way. But and everyone's different and they have their own different ways of doing things. Personally, what I do now with my brain dumping is I just get a scrap piece of paper, write out whatever it is that's bothering me, even if it's something that I've just woken up and I've just felt rubbish and I don't really know why. I will just start today. I just having a great day. I feel really low, and I'll just write whatever it is that's coming out in my head. That then helps me process those feelings that I've got. And sometimes when you're writing things out, you can kind of like, as you're writing it, reading it, and thinking, why am I so bothered by this? So that's my go-to on the days when I'm not feeling so great about the universe or life or whatever it might be. What I also do, I'm making more of an effort to do now, is take time to just pause and rest. I had a tendency to push myself with, especially with work. The minute I had 5 minutes to spare, it'd be like, oh, where's my laptop? I could quickly type up some newsletters for my coaching, or I could quickly check this out on, whatever it might be. Whereas now I'm trying not to do that so much. And instead I'm thinking, you know what, I've got 5, 10 minutes to spare. I could go for a walk, or I pick up my book and read. Or I might just decide, you know what, I'm actually feeling a bit tired. I could quickly go and have a nap. So I'm trying to listen to my body a bit more. What is it telling me? Is it telling me that it wants to rest? And rather than trying to go, no, we're not going to rest now. We're going to do some work because we've got this to do. I'm like, no, it's telling me I want to rest. I'm going to do that. So those are like a few little things that I do to kind of help me through my days. What about you?
Well, great stuff, yeah. And I mean, I love the that idea that you do the meditation and then you do the brain dump, because I think, well, for me, definitely, I used to, as soon as I woke up, there was an issue, and it would be a thought that came in or a reminder of what happened yesterday or something bad or whatever, and I would take that as gospel, like, okay. Um, take it as real as though it was, so the first few minutes of my day can turn from just being awake to being completely sort of low down, and that sort of awakening would then sort of like give me the feeling that what's the point? Might as well lay here, because if I'm just going to make this mistake again or whatever it was that was, you know, and I would just totally take that, as gospel as real. So I pretty much do the same thing. Although what I do first is I get on my knees and pray because what I do is I try and ask that all my difficulties be relieved of me, and I ask that I be given inspiration. I ask be given, you know, freedom from the bondage of self, because I used to be somebody who was extremely um self-seeking, self-centered, and I recognized that that was a source of how I was always, I could turn a really positive situation into a very negative one really quickly.
Mm.
And there was a part of me that didn't want me to enjoy stuff for the basis of don't get used to this because something shit is going to happen around the corner or
Yeah.
something bad is going to happen. So I wouldn't allow myself to feel joy or whatever. So even if I woke up in a good mood, there'd be a part of me that says, "Oh, be careful here, because this is going to go wrong at some point," which is incredibly um well, it's upsetting when I think about it now. How many years did I live with that sort of process every morning? So I do the prayer, I do the meditation afterwards. And when I first started meditating, I tried all the lotus positions. I nearly put my hip out, because it just wasn't comfortable for me. I tried all these meditation sort of tapes and stuff, and again, you know, I I almost felt I was forcing myself to do something that was pushing a rock up a hill. And I thought
Mm.
it shouldn't be like this. And, meditation should be chilling me out, not stressing me out. So somebody just said, well, look, if you're praying in the morning, and your meditation could be, if you're praying, you're asking for something, then your meditation, you could use that as you're listening, waiting for the answer. So you can just sit in silence. And I thought, oh man,
Really
that's
good.
exactly it. That's exactly what I needed. So I would just sit there and just let my thoughts come through, and usually about 20 to 30 minutes of just sitting in silence, no radio, no phone, no, just sitting there quiet. I would just suddenly be present, and everything, the thoughts had run through my head, and then I was clear. And I just felt, okay, so now I'm clear. I've got nothing, no noise going on in my head. I can only now this minute focus on what's going to go ahead this morning. Journaling sometimes can work for me, but I don't use it that often. The one thing that I do find journaling is very good. If I'm disturbed, it doesn't necessarily mean I'm angry. It could be I'm upset, or there's something that's not sitting right with me, and I don't know what it is. I do grab a pen and a paper, because especially before I go to bed. So I've got this thing that I need to make sure that I give myself the best possible option of sleeping well. Because, like you say, when you wake up in the morning, um, if you feel you've got as much chance as possible to have a great day, a good sleep is going to start it off nicely. So if I
Mm.
can try and give myself the opportunity to have a good sleep, which means for me, I don't go to bed on a resentment or a problem or a worry or a fear. Fear can keep you awake for hours. So anything like that where I'm feeling an emotion that's going to keep me awake or is going to stop me from going to sleep, put it that way, then I write it down and I start, because I don't know what it is all the time. I can't work out why I'm feeling or what. Sometimes I don't even know what I'm feeling.
Mm.
So I get a page, a blank piece of paper, and I go, I feel, and I start it like that. And usually, even if I don't know what those feelings are, I can say, I feel as though there's something that's really bothering me, blah, blah, blah. And I just start. And by writing, I then unlock whatever it is that's coming. Sometimes I still don't know why I'm feeling like that, but at least I'm acknowledging to myself that that's how I feel. And as long as I know how I feel, then I can sit there and say, okay, so this is just how I feel at the moment. But my problem also was my thinking ruled me, and negative thinking was the thing. And there was also, I could go back into negative thinking and talk about the payoffs. There was a payoff for me believing my negative thoughts, which kept me small. It means that I didn't have to go out there and face the fears and risks, stepping out the comfort zones.
Yeah.
I would keep myself small by telling myself, oh, I'm not worthy. I'm not, this never works out for me. It works for other people, but it won't work out for me, that sort of thing. But my feelings as well, I used to believe that I was my feelings. So if I felt low, I'm low, I feel as though I'm a bad person, I am a bad person. And actually, the French, I think, have a term, don't they? Whereas it's basically my feelings are on me
Mm.
rather than I am my feelings. My feelings are upon me.
Yeah.
And when I started to sort of think about that, it also gave me the freedom then to let them just, you know, just take over. I wasn't frightened of them taking over me because I knew that they could only do so much. Because now I'd distanced myself. There was no sort of like, they weren't going to change my life or my attitude. I just had to acknowledge that they were there. And usually, once I'd acknowledged that, okay, so I'm feeling really, I'm feeling some grief. I'm just grieving. And if I just said, okay, so I'm grieving right now, and just having that sort of time to say, okay, well, let's just sit here with it for now, and let's just see if we can. And normally, when I do that, it can last a few seconds, it can last a few minutes, it can last, and then I just think to myself, okay, so I'm going to go to work today in grief, or I'm going to go wherever I am today in grief. And so, like you, sometimes I would just sit there and say, okay, so I'm feeling a lot of grief today, and actually I'm just going to give myself time to process this. So I cancel all my arrangements. And you've really got to sort of, the first time somebody mentioned self-care strategies to me, they said, because my question was, well, how do I know whether I should do something or not? And they just say, well, just try it because you'll know soon enough whether it's the right decision or not. Because if you make the decision that you're going to stay at home and there's something that needs to be done, that'll come up straight away. It'll be like, yeah, but you need to do this, so there was no right or wrong. It was just go with something, at least take action of any sort, even if it's the wrong action, just take it because you'll soon work out whether it's the right thing to do or not, because you will have a consequence immediately. There's all sorts of things, but I think for me, when you were talking about the 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 gratitude, I know that if I can't just automatically feel gratitude. I have to work at it. And I know that when I'm in gratitude, abundance comes my way. And if I'm grateful, I will receive more of whatever it is I'm grateful for. So if I'm feeling low, I'm only going to attract stuff that's negative. What happens with me is I have a negative thought and then I believe it, and then negative thoughts just pile straight on. I can think of all the things that I've done wrong, or conversations that I wished I'd had, or conversations I wish I hadn't had, you know, and very soon I'm just completely, rock bottom again. And so gratitude, I think, is probably a great way. I think if you had 5 minutes before you getting up and getting out the door, just do exactly what you said. So I'm grateful that I've got food in the cupboard. I've got a roof over my head. I've got clothes to wear. I've got a car to drive. I've got petrol in there. You know,
Mm.
you can very, I think 10 things, if I can think of 10 things that I'm grateful for, by that time I'm sort of, yeah, you know, and I think it's a great way to start the day. And because there are always things, aren't there? I mean, I
Mm,
think if,
yeah.
that we live in Western civilization, and I think we're in the top like 7% or something of people that are the most wealthy because we've got a place to live, we've got a place to, we've got food, we've got electricity, we've got all these things, we've got access to work and all these things. Some people, a lot of people don't have all of those things. So yeah, it's really interesting. It's interesting to hear that we've got sort of like similar things.
Yeah. And I read somewhere before with gratitude that it helps with anxiety because apparently the brain can't process gratitude and anxiety at the same time.
Mm.
So when we're thankful for something, we can't also be anxious about it because the brain just can't compute. So, but yeah, you're right. There's always something to be grateful for, even if it is the small stuff that we just forget. Having Wi-Fi, being able to do things like this, having the phone, we can just call our friends or whatever. That's something to be thankful for. Have friends to be able to call.
Mm.
So there's always little things, even if the negative stuff feels so overwhelming in that day. There's always something that we can just go, okay, well, maybe that's not working out, but I still have hot water. I still have food, and it might not help with whatever else we're dealing with. It might be yes, but this is so much bigger. But it just kind of puts us more on a even path rather than everything consuming us and being consumed by the negative. But it's interesting what you're saying about feelings because I think our go-to, definitely for me, was always I am. I am angry. I am sad. I am this. And like you said, it's not that we are our feelings. It's just that that's just what we are experiencing at that moment in time. So I now say I feel anger, I feel sad, I feel because then, like you were mentioning, it puts that distance. Well, this isn't me as a whole. This is just something this is a wave I'm riding at this moment in time. Because even if I might feel sad right now, yesterday I felt happy. So therefore I know that if that happiness passed and I'm on the sad wave today, maybe tomorrow I might be back on the happy wave. And it's just trying to understand that that is life. It is just peaks and troughs, isn't it? It's like a roller coaster. We're going to have days where we feel not so great and days where we feel on top of the world. And it's just trying to remember in those not so great days that they will pass. It's just trying to navigate ourselves through them, isn't it?
It is, and I think we've probably given quite a few different strategies on this call. Um, just to remind anybody who's watching, so you are a life navigation and mindset coach. Can you just give a quick rundown about what you offer, just so
Sure.
people know?
Okay, so basically, I work with people who perhaps they feel they've lost their way, lost themselves along the way. Maybe they've experienced something in life, maybe the end of a relationship, or maybe they're at a crossroads in life, or maybe they just feel like there's more to life because we can easily go along through life thinking, well, we're okay, but feeling like there's more that we could achieve or there's more out there. And sometimes we don't quite know what that more looks like, or sometimes we do know what that more looks like and we don't quite know how to go about achieving it. So I work with people who are just looking for some navigation in life, pretty much. And what we do is we work through where they are now, where is it they want to go, and then we kind of trying to bridge that gap in between. So okay, so if you where you are now, you've got all of these these stories that we tell ourselves of why we can't do these things. I'm not good enough, I'm not lovable, I'm not worthy, whatever it might be. We work through, well, where is what those stories are, where have they come from? And then we try to rewrite them. We look at ways of how we can recognize that we're not fully and completely not lovable, not worthy, not good enough, because it's easy to think that we are. But there's always stuff where it shows the opposite of that. So we look for that. We try to retrain the brain to look for those things, because our brain is very quick at looking. Our brain basically is designed to keep us safe. So it has a negative bias by default. It's always thinking that everything is dangerous. And that can then shrink our growth if we're always going through life looking, well, I can't, like you were saying just now about your negative thinking, it then puts up those fears and those blockers. So it's just about understanding that and then rewriting those stories. Or why is that story there? Why is that fear there? And then understanding in actual fact it's just like a wall that our brain has put into place to keep us safe. But actually, if we look beyond that wall, there's a nice green field and it's full of flowers and wonderful things that if we could just have that courage to jump the wall, we could have that life that we wanted. So it's working through all of that stuff, how we can then achieve that life, looking at how we can build our courage, confidence, and our self-esteem, tools and techniques for managing anxiety and stress, because whenever we deal with anything new in life, there's always going to be anxiety and fear. That's just natural. Like I said, it's our brain setting off the sirens because we're doing something new that it's not used to. So it's using tools and techniques that we can manage that. So we're not consumed by that anxiety that then stops us. We can learn how to navigate our way through the anxiety and the fear of starting new things. And try to determine what it actually is that we want. Who is the person we want to be? What is the life that we want to live? And using all those tools, techniques, and all those rewriting the stories, etc., to then be able to achieve that. So I have a coaching program that I've devised, which is basically all of that. It covers all of that in a nutshell. So we work through every single step, and then we can do that complete transformation from A to Z. And then I also have personalized coaching sessions. So maybe someone has done this kind of work before. Maybe they've done some counseling, done some coaching, they know what they want, but they're just feeling a little bit stuck. They can see what's beyond that wall, they know it's there. They just need that little bit of extra help to just get over. So then we tailor those sessions for that person. What is their goal that they're trying to achieve? And just doing those final little steps for them to be able to achieve that.
Yeah,
So
and if
that's,
you think about all of that stuff that you're helping to navigate people through, it's no wonder why people find it difficult when you've got all of that to consider, all of those things to sort of that challenge us,
yeah, exactly.
that it's so tempting to stay in the comfort zone,
Yeah,
isn't it?
definitely, definitely. Because it's like I said, our brain's trying to keep us safe. So there's
Yeah,
that fear. There's that automatic, our brain's going, what are you doing? It's those stories. Well, what are you doing that for? We're used to doing this. Let's just, like you say now about being shrunk. That's where our brain wants us to be. It wants us to be in that little bubble. It doesn't want us to venture out that bubble because it doesn't know what's outside there. It's scary, scary
yeah,
stuff.
that's right. It goes back to that old adage, ships are safe in harbour, but that's not what they're built for.
Yeah,
And
100%.
we're out there to stretch ourselves, to take risks. And yeah, so thank you for that, Nikki. I'm obviously a I deal with family estrangement, enmeshment, which is usually between parents and children, and I also deal with absent parents as well. I've obviously had those going on in my own life, and I've had to recover from those areas. So I sort of now help others go through, well, pass through basically, um, so that they're enabled, they can enable themselves to not be, I suppose, held back or defeated by relationships that they struggle with, so that they can put down boundaries and just live the life that they've always wanted to be, regardless of whether they're connected to their family or they're not. Because obviously sometimes estrangement is necessary. Um, but I have this like inner wish that families can also always find ways of being able to communicate and live, in have safe relationships with each other, but they just need to learn how to really. So a lot of my work is how to initially you deal with yourself. So you sort of like heal yourself first. You look at yourself first. And then once you know what it is you want out of the relationship, then you can go and approach the other party and ask for your needs to be met effectively. And then it's then really up to the others. But so my main focus is that the individual comes to me and I help them live within their own skin and build a life that's full of contentment, with occasional joy would be
Mm.
nice. So yeah, thanks so much, Nikki. We'll be tackling another issue very soon. So if anybody's wishing to contact us, please message us below, or we've got links there to our own websites where you can message us through our own communication channels through there. So anyway, thanks everybody.
See you soon.